You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Bible Guys.
Woohoo!
My name is Chris, and this is Jeff.
Jeff.
And we have given ourselves self-proclaimed titles of We're the Bible Guys.
We are the Bible Guys. The Bible Guys.
You may think you
may know some other Bible-y guys, but
Bible-y?
we are the Bible Guys.
All we're trying to say with that is actually it's the opposite of what it sounds like. We're not saying we know that much about the Bible. All we're saying is we're just a couple of friends who like to talk about the Bible.
That's right. We're really big fans of the Bible.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So, hey, today we're going to kick off a segment called Guess the Word. It's played just like Taboo. And we're going to, if you're watching on video, we're going to put these words that I cannot say on the screen. And
if you do,
then
you lose 1,000 points.
Yes, for every time that I blow it.
She didn't say how many points I get for getting them right. Only that you lose.
She did actually list 1,000 points, didn't she?
Yeah, she said
do
you
not
lose
say
1,000 points.
Or else you lose 1,000 points.
Yeah,
That's
so
hilarious.
I think it's on you today.
Okay, so it's just me going into the negative. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no scoring system.
You're going to owe her. You're going to owe Desiree 1,000 points every time
if
you
I
make a
get
mistake.
all 5 of these right without making a single mistake, I'm still at 0.
0-0. She's sending a passive aggressive. She's sending a passive aggressive message to us. I think you guys are zeros, even if you think you win.
Hey, movie trivia. I award you no points, and God have mercy on your soul.
I don't know.
Do you know that?
No,
it's. I think it's Billy Madison.
Oh, okay.
That's hilarious. Okay, so here we go. By the way, I've not looked at these in the past. I've looked at these and figured out a way I was going to say it.
This is fun though.
But I'm going to have to say it on the spot.
Right on the spot.
Which means I may make more mistakes.
Okay, this is going to be fun.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, ready?
Uh-huh.
You shoot your rifle when you
are hunting.
Yes. What's the singular word for that?
Hunt.
Yes.
Okay.
Boom. Got it.
There you go. Bang.
I was not allowed to say gun because I said rifle, deer, fishing, hounds, or turkey.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Ready? Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. When the foliage turns orange and red.
Fall.
Or?
Autumn.
Yes, correct.
Wow.
I was not allowed to say leaves, winter, fall, season, or summer.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. That was a tough one. Good job.
Yes. I could have said...
Autumn is a hard word.
I could have said not spring, but...
Yes.
I could have done that. But I said foliage.
Yes. Foliage. Big words.
Yes, it is. Okay, here we go. Ready? Ugly Christmas...
Sweater.
Yes.
There you go.
That was so clever.
That was awesome.
Yes, because I was not allowed to say wear, fuzzy, cold, knit, or shirt.
So we are 3 for 3 to this point,
And-
which added up, we still have 0 points.
Yes, I
Okay.
have 0
Yeah,
points.
yeah.
Because it says Chris
But she didn't even
loses.
give me the opportunity for points. How do you like that?
That's true.
Yeah, I know.
That is true. Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay.
What do we have next?
Oh, geez. All right, here we go. The main protein in the November holiday.
Turkey.
Yes. How about that? I was not.
That was great.
Thank you.
Good one.
I was not allowed to say dinner, eat, gobble, animal, or Thanksgiving.
Okay. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good
And
job.
by
That
the
was
way,
a great one.
I did not come up with that except for on the spot. I did not
That
look at
was
these.
great.
I've not pre-looked at these.
Fabulous.
Okay. All right, here we go. All right. I just sent you a video of our family.
Pumpkins.
Yes. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, you did.
You
Yeah.
just said the word pumpkin.
That was a couple days ago.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple days ago you sent me that
Yes.
video.
I was not allowed to say orange, carve, stem, jack, or Halloween.
Wow. That's awesome.
And by the way, wasn't that crazy, mine?
Yes. Very good.
It was crazy.
You guys did a good job.
Thank you. Stephen.
So Chris sent me a video of him. He had carved his pumpkins, and his pumpkin is giving birth to a pumpkin.
Yes. Because I saw it on social media. And
it's so goofy.
Yeah, and so everybody who likes those kinds of things, they probably have already seen it. So it's not necessarily original, but I saw it and I thought, oh my goodness, this is great.
It was crazy. I've never seen it before, so that was crazy.
Because I built arms and legs out of carrots.
Right. I was wondering what that was. I was like, what did he do?
It was carrots.
That's a riot.
Yeah, that's a riot.
So bizarre.
Hey, dude.
To spend a few minutes. So our listeners get to listen and spend a few minutes inside the brain of Chris Sarbaugh.
And guess what?
A few minutes a day.
I'm at 0 points.
But congratulations. At least you're not negative.
That's right.
You didn't go negative. You don't owe Des anything.
That's right.
Right.
That's awesome.
But to be able to be me and some of the others that are close to Chris all the time, to get into your mind on a regular basis.
It's a privilege. It is a privilege. So you're welcome.
That's true.
You are welcome.
Good.
Well, hey, we're going to transition.
Well, we left him on a cliffhanger yesterday.
Hey, do you remember a couple weeks ago I was watching our old episodes as they were airing? And you said that our goal was to do bad transitions.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I actually, when I was listening to it, I thought, that's funny.
It was.
We should continue to do that. So go ahead and make the transition to the scripture. Go.
Oh, okay. On this one, speaking of pumpkins, I don't know. Giving birth. It reminds me that David.
There you go.
Speaking of pumpkins giving birth, it reminds me that David and Bathsheba had a baby, and then some of the other people that he gave birth wanted to pull off a coup.
There it is. It is.
Did it work?
Yes,
did it work?
Actually
okay,
did
there
work.
we go.
Because it made sense, and
terrible.
It's a really bad transition.
It's terrible. Okay, so that's one of our goals now? One of our goals is to have terrible transitions.
I think it should be.
All right.
Because I was watching it. Sometimes you say it, then you forget about it.
Yes.
And then when I was actually watching it, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty clever.
Yeah. And then inadvertently, probably most of the rest of the transitions since that time have been bad transitions too. But,
yes.
Okay. So if you remember, what's his name? Adonijah was David's... What was it? His fourth son.
Yeah, he was born right after Absalom, right?
Yeah, and it made sense that he would be the next king because you had, according to the notes here, Adonijah was David's fourth son, the logical choice to succeed him as king. David's first son, Amnon, had been killed by Absalom for raping his sister. His second son, Daniel, is mentioned only in the genealogy, so he must have died by this time. Absalom died in a previous coup attempt, and then now you have Adonijah. It makes sense that Adonijah, but David had already chosen...
Are those all four starting with A?
Except for Daniel.
Oh, yeah, Daniel, and Solomon, of course. But
and then, David had determined that Solomon was going to be the next king. That's what he had, and God had chosen Solomon as well. But one of the things, it was amazing, we didn't mention this yesterday, but do you remember reading that David had never disciplined Adonijah? Not even asking him, why are you doing that?
Have you ever seen the old grandpa mentality? Where you sort of give up being a parent.
You just give him everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You want more candy? Have more candy. You want ice cream maybe before bed? Go ahead. Right?
Well, that's what's happening. Right. He's just forgotten to be a dad. Right? He's sort of like almost feels like he's renounced his responsibilities. Why? Because Nathan has to plot the way to get David to actually act like a leader.
Right.
So he says, Bathsheba, go in there and you say this, then I'll come in and I'll make a big stink about it as you're talking.
Yeah, I'll back up your story.
Because we want David to respond as a leader. And if you go in by yourself, he's not going to respond. He's going to do what he always does. Right? Which is just he's just going to pass discipline, ignore, whatever.
So clearly Adonijah
or
has
pass
no
responsibility
character.
Is what I mean.
David never corrected him, and it doesn't say anything about how Abishag, his mother, was it Abishag? No. His mother's name, it was another really weird name. Haggith. It doesn't say anything about her disciplining, but the Bible does mention a few times about Bathsheba and raising her son. And so it's kind of interesting. Maybe David saw that Solomon had character. And that might have been why he chose Solomon over Abishag or what's his name? Adonijah. Okay, so we're going to pick back up. Here we go. King David, this is in verse 28 of 1 Kings. King David responded, call Bathsheba. So she came back in and stood before the king, and the king repeated his vow. As surely as the Lord lives, who rescued me from every danger, your son Solomon will be the next king and will sit on my throne this very day, just as I vowed to you before the Lord, the God of Israel. Then Bathsheba bowed down with her face to the ground before the king and claimed, "May my lord, King David, live forever." Then King David ordered, "Call Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada." And when they came into the king's presence, the king said to them, "Take Solomon and my officials down to the Gihon spring. Solomon is to ride on my own mule. There Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet are to anoint him king over Israel. Blow the ram's horn and shout, 'Long live King Solomon,' and then escort him back here, and he will sit on my throne. He will succeed me as king, for I have appointed him to be ruler over Israel and Judah." "Amen," Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, replied. "May the Lord, the God of my lord the king, decree that it happen. And may the Lord be with Solomon as he has been with you, my lord the king, and may he make Solomon's reign even greater than yours." Seems like he made a long speech considering he'd be hurrying there. But anyways.
Well, and by the way, he has to make it because Adonijah, his coup is happening that day.
Right.
Which means all of a sudden David has been thrust into, like, I've got to do this ceremony right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, where do we finish on this chapter, by the way?
I
was trying to figure it out.
That's a great question.
Verse 53. Ooh, we're going.
Yeah,
okay.
We got more to read.
So Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaiah son of Jehoiada, and the king's bodyguard took Solomon down to Gihon spring, with Solomon riding on David's own mule. There Zadok the priest took the flask of olive oil from the sacred tent and anointed Solomon with the oil. Then they sounded the ram's horn, and all the people shouted, "Long live King Solomon." All the people followed Solomon into Jerusalem, playing flutes and shouting for joy. The celebration was so joyous and noisy that the earth shook with the sound. Adonijah and his guests heard the celebrating and shouting just as they were finishing their banquet. When Joab heard the sound of the ram's horn, he asked, "What's going on? Why is the city in such an uproar?" While he was still speaking, Jonathan, son of Abiathar, the priest, arrived. "Come in," Adonijah said to him, "for you are a good man. You must have good news." "Not at all," Jonathan replied. "Our lord, King David, has just declared Solomon king. The king sent him down to Gihon spring with Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada, protected by the king's bodyguard. They had him ride on the king's own mule, and Zadok and Nathan have anointed him at Gihon spring as the new king, and they've just returned, and the whole city is celebrating and rejoicing." That's what all the noise is about. What's more, Solomon is now sitting on the royal throne as king. All the royal officials have gone to King David and congratulating him, saying, "May your God make Solomon's fame even greater than your own, and may Solomon's reign be even greater than yours." And then the king bowed his head in worship as he lay in his bed, and he said, "Praise the Lord, the God of Israel, who today has chosen a successor to sit on my throne while I am still alive to see it." Then all of Adonijah's guests jumped up in panic from the banquet table and quickly scattered. Adonijah was afraid of Solomon, so he rushed to the sacred tent and grabbed onto the horns of the altar. Word soon reached Solomon that Adonijah had seized the horns of the altar in fear, and that he was pleading, "Let King Solomon swear today that he will not kill me." Solomon replied, "If he proves himself to be loyal, not a hair on his head will be touched, but if he makes trouble, he will die." So King Solomon summoned Adonijah, and they brought him down from the altar. He came and bowed respectfully before King Solomon, who dismissed him, saying, "Go on home." What a cool move right there.
Yeah, that's a great move.
Just go home.
Yeah. So, hey, you tried, buddy. Right? You tried. It failed.
Go home. Just go.
Bend the knee. Go on home.
Yeah.
That's it. So
there you go.
So again, what an epic story,
yeah.
And it's just great. And by the way,
just in the nick of time, dude.
Right, and I love how it says David bowed his head in worship as he lay in his bed. You know what that means? It means that he used all of his strength to get up and to do this ceremony. They got him out of bed. Here he is under what, like 500 blankets, and standing next to a girl that's trying to keep him warm, right? And he can't get warm, and so he's gonna come out of his blankets.
So weak.
And you're right. And, you know, you can even imagine in your brain how thin he is.
Yeah.
Right. He's probably so thin. That's when you're cold.
Well, we know he's over 70 at this point.
Yeah.
But the miles on this guy are way more than 70.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, this guy's been through it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he has just enough strength to do all of this, and then
this old lion rises up one more time.
Right. And then he goes back in bed and he worships in bed because he doesn't have the strength.
Right.
And so it includes that detail. And so Solomon is now probably with no notice. Think about this. Think about it from Solomon's point of view, right?
Yeah.
He's been promised king. Sure, he's been trained to be king. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the long-awaited day, but then all of a sudden somebody wakes you up and goes, hey, it's happening today. What do you mean today? No, within the next hour.
Yeah, we're going now.
Get on the mule.
Right.
It's like, wow. And all of a sudden you're on the throne.
Yeah.
And so, it's a good lesson for us.
And he's a younger man, right?
Yes.
So he's the fifth son of David. So
yes.
he's a younger man. We know that David also had daughters. So we don't know how many siblings, but I mentioned was it yesterday's episode that I had my oldest sister is in her 60s, my youngest brother's in his 30s, and there's this big gap.
And you have 10 siblings, and you're the 11th.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the middle, but when you add me, it's 11 kids total that are connected.
Oh, right? You're not the 11th in line.
No. I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest of the boys.
You didn't say it right.
I have 6 older sisters and 4 younger brothers.
Everybody above you is female. Everybody below you is male.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I turned the tide, man. Everything got better.
Right. That's really funny.
Yeah. So, it could be that way. That he could be 15 years younger than Amnon was. Right. So he's probably a pretty young guy.
Yeah.
If his dad was in his 70s,
he can't be too young because Adonijah is afraid of him.
Right. Yeah. Well, he also has all the bodyguards and he's sitting on the throne.
You think he was just afraid of his power?
Oh, he's the king now.
Right.
Yeah. So everybody, because it didn't hesitate to tell us that as soon as the announcement was made, everybody left Adonijah.
Yeah, right.
He's by himself.
Right.
He's feeling pretty tough because he's got Joab sitting there with him.
And at any time that dinner party could have been raided.
Right.
And they could have
they were just down the hill. They were just down the hill from the palace.
Right.
So, yeah. So, Solomon is now the king, and yeah, like you said, is a whirlwind here. But this treacherous guy, Adonijah, just be sure that when you try to, Jesus said, if you try to push yourself to the top, you will be humiliated. Right. That's kind of the thing, and this is what he did again. Adonijah tries to push himself to the top. He tries to seize power. It wasn't his to have. And he winds up being embarrassed. Joab gets exposed at this point. All these other leaders, Abiathar and his family, they get exposed, and they all take off running. They abandon Adonijah. And just understand, when you're trying to take what's not yours, the people around you will abandon you when you get exposed. Right?
That's right.
And that's what happens here.
Yeah. Hey, there's a note. One of the reasons why we love our Life Application Study Bibles is they do all of the study, and they have these commentaries and these really great notes. And I love this.
And a lot of times they'll do like a character study where they'll summarize a character's life.
Yes. And in this case, they're summarizing Bathsheba. And I love just the opening lines in this. It says, Bathsheba was the unlikely link between Israel's 2 most famous kings, David and Solomon. She was lover and wife to one and mother to the other. Her adultery with David almost brought an end to David's family line. But out of the ashes of sin, God brought good. Eventually, Jesus Christ, the salvation of mankind, was born as a descendant to David and Bathsheba. David and Bathsheba's story shows that little but wrong decisions often lead to big mistakes. It is likely that neither was where she should have been. Bathsheba may have been rash anyway, it just goes on.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is it is a great thing to recognize in this moment as Solomon is being, king, that, Bathsheba is the mother. And then from this line of kings is the King of Kings, right? The next king of Israel and king of the world and king of the universe and creation. And so it's just really cool how God is able to use broken people for great things.
Yeah.
And so here's David, not a perfect moment, right? The worst part of his life by far, the thing that was known throughout Israel, his most shameful thing that he's ever been a part of, and yet God redeems it. And it's because, why? Of his repentance.
Yes.
It's because of his posture of recognizing and apologizing to everybody. There was a penalty for his sin. He has paid that price, And it's just a great thing to know that God is still in the business of using broken people for great things.
Right. The other thing is God had ordered, God does not endorse polygamy anywhere in the Bible. He had ordered the kings, don't marry lots of wives. He'd warned the people, if you start appointing kings, they're going to want to marry all the women. They're going to want to.
It was a warning.
Right. They're going to want to enlist all of the sons.
Samuel said, this is the detestable things that will happen if you choose a king.
Right. And they're going to marry all your women. They're going to enlist all of your sons. They're going to take all of your money, right? You don't want a king. And so the kings weren't supposed to be marrying all these women, but David does. And if you look at it, it's 4 sons, 3 of them in a row that rose up against him.
Right.
Right? From different women.
Yeah.
And then finally, God still redeems it, even out of our sin. He resolves, he brings, like that said, beauty out of ashes kind of a thing, and raises up Solomon. God could look into Solomon's life and go, okay, this guy's going to be a pretty good leader.
Yeah, and let's not forget, too, that his son's raising up against him is part of the consequences for his own sin.
Right.
Because the curse came in.
Multiple sins.
Yeah. And it was Nathan, right? Mm-hmm. Who said, part of your curse is going to be that your sons are going to live and die by the sword. Right. And in fact, your whole family.
Right.
And
it's going to be violence.
It's going to be violence and everything else. So it was an actual curse. And so David's earthly consequences, the ripple effects of his bad choices are still coming back to haunt him.
But it doesn't require Nathan to come in and declare the curse. Sin brings the curse.
Right, that's right.
Right? Nathan was just informing him of the curse.
Right.
These are going to be the consequences. But if David had just married one woman and raised his son well, that son would have been the king.
Right.
But instead he marries lots of women. They're all aspiring to the throne.
Yeah.
They all, right?
And then decides to take another woman.
And takes another woman right in front of them.
Right, by murder.
Right. And so what happens is, in David's mind, David was just doing what other respectable kings do. Mm-hmm. He look around the world, see all the other kings. All the other kings have these big harems. They just take what they want. It's a sign of your power. It demonstrates how strong your country is because you're such a virile man and you've got 50 kids and all these things. And
it's also what more to choose from, right? The next heir.
Sure.
Right. If I have a bunch of wives and more kids, right. It makes sense in mathematically.
Right.
That if you have kids by one woman, you're only going to get so many kids.
Right.
But if you have 700 women, you can have 700 kids.
So his justification for it very likely was, this is what kings do. So that's what I do. It demonstrates my power, whatever. And I think a lot of times Christians get tempted to just do what the world does. Mm-hmm. Going, well, culture has changed. Right? I know that's what God said, but, the reality is, we've had conversations with people who were choosing to live in sin because economics are bad. Right. It's hard to pay for rent. Right? It's whatever. And we can find an excuse to justify our sin. And then we still tend to be shocked when there's consequences to our sin. Mm-hmm. And in this situation, David literally lives what should have been the end years of his life in peace because he'd vanquished all of his enemies. Mm-hmm. Instead, now the enemy is from inside his own household. Over and over and over again. It's the consequence of the fact that he adopted the lifestyle of the world around him. And instead of going God's way and trusting that God would raise up the one, he only needed one heir. He didn't need 75 heirs. He needed one. He needed to trust God would protect that heir. He needed to trust that and then follow Deuteronomy 6. Teach him in the morning when you rise up, when you go to bed at night, when you walk along the way, when you sit down to eat, right? But instead we see here Adonijah, he never even corrected him one time. He didn't train him at all. He did bupkis with the next person in line that could have been king, right? Ignored him, essentially. And a lot of times I think parents think, oh, I just love my baby so much, I don't want to discipline them.
Yeah.
But look what you raise.
Right.
Right? And so in so many ways, David is such a good guy. His heart is for God. And in so many ways, he just fails to do what was necessary. He was super talented, but he didn't raise his children in the same way.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah, and part of it, I'm sure he blamed himself the entire time.
Sure,
he felt discouraged about that part of his life, I'm sure. Blaming himself because he knew that no matter what he did, it was destined to turn bad, Yeah. I'm sure he probably told himself all sorts of things.
Yeah, why did I do this?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so I'm sure it played part into him just sort of giving up in some ways. But you know what? This move that David did here, this is obviously what God had in mind. God said, David, you won't build the temple, but Solomon will. Yeah. God knew Solomon was the next king. Yeah. That was God's choice. That was David's choice. And so him rising up and doing this in this moment was a great picture of the old David, right?
That's right.
The David who stood against Goliath, the young man that killed the lion and the bear. That's who stood up here and did what was right. So
David has one or two more plays, and then it's coming to an end here pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to the next episode or two.
All right. So we'll see you then on the Bible Guys.